Tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long. While there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. Faithful till death, said our loving Master. A few more days to labor and wait. Toils up the road will then seem as nothing when we sweep through that beautiful gate. Farther along, we'll know more about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. When death has come and taken our loved one, leaving our home so lonely and drear, then may we wonder why others prosper, living so wicked year after year. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. Yes, we'll understand it all by and by.
All right. So good evening, friends, family, admirers of Lucas Aaron Hicks, Esquire. Some of you have come from far away, some from just down the street. Some of you knew Lucas his entire life, some more recently. But regardless of the nature of our connection, we'll forget, he's family, so he's forgivable. Yeah. It's all right. Yeah. All right. So regardless of the nature of our connection, we're all gathered here tonight, united as a community, to do the part that Lucas was afraid we would do. So by that, I mean, although he objected to the very idea of a memorial in his honor, he grudgingly accepted that would happen, and he only had two demands: no long speeches and party like hell. So, So we're going to keep within those constraints as best we can, but bear with us if we stray slightly. Luke was just too rad a guy to skip speaking of him altogether. As we considered how to best honor our friend Lucas, it became obvious how difficult it would be to do justice to him in a measly speech. He was certainly someone that respected concision of thought and action, and that being said, hopefully he would understand why we're here talking about him. We also hope that all of you can understand why there are only a few people speaking tonight. We know that most of you out there have a lot to say about Lucas and have big feelings to share. We hope it's clear that it's out of respect for his last wishes that there's no open mic or call to the crowd to share a story. It is, of course, our hope that over the next few days, as we celebrate our good friend and the impact he had on us all, those stories will come out. It's also our hope that everyone can understand why this formal part of the service may seem so short and so long in coming. We've been doing our best to honor his last wishes, to give him the space that he asked for, and that so many of us who were with him during his last days also needed, as well as to make sure we were able to give him the boobs and balls outrager that would fit Lucas Hicks' bill. So there's so much to say about Lucas, so many stories to tell. He led a big life that touched a lot of people and covered a lot of ground. Several months ago, just before his last round of chemo, I was talking to Lucas a bit about the fear that he had had many times before, that this might be the time that the cancer finally gets him. He'd faced down that fear many times, but it was looming a bit larger than it had before. He was worried that despite optimistic news from the doctors, he just hurt so much in a way that had a different character than the pain he'd faced previously. But when asked if there was anything that we could do to make the most of his time, if there was anything at all that he wanted to do, there was little to no hesitation in his voice before he replied, and paraphrasing a little bit, "I honestly don't feel like there's anything I haven't done that I really want to do, or that I have any regrets that I want to make right. I feel extremely grateful to have lived the life I have and have the friends that I do." In short, it was agreed that he pretty much slayed life up to that point. So, as some of you know, there were friends and family who had the opportunity to share with Lucas some wonderful, wild, deeply sad, and incredibly moving final days. And though many of you know this story or have your own version of it already, we thought that sharing the story of those final days might be the best way of giving thanks to our friend, as it captures so much of who he was and was such an important experience to many here tonight. And part of the story we are going to tell tonight is of those final days. But to capture the essence of Lucas in a paragraph of glowing generalities feels impossible. And to try to describe him via a specific story too is also impossible. In truth, none of us here need to sit and hear someone describe how remarkable Lucas Hicks was, because we all know it and feel it soundly in our hearts. That being said, I'm going to hand it over to Lucas. Reed.
It's really Lucas, we all know that. So that was Levi Wollendanner speaking just now. My name is Reeb Wilms, and some other people here with us are Devin Champlin and Casey Connor. We'll all be reading to you tonight. Here's my part. It feels like a pillar has been yanked out from under the community, an important pillar that none of us ever wanted to lose. Luckily for all of us, Lucas cultivated a community of pillars. And while we will never stop wishing that our dear friend was still with us, what better group of people to lean into at this time of loss? I think until the last, we thought maybe we wouldn't lose him, that he might make yet another of his miraculous comebacks. Maybe I'm not alone in feeling a warm yet lonesome place in my heart where Lucas resides. Warm because his presence is still strong in my heart. Lonesome knowing that I won't bust up laughing with him when we're all old. What a spectacular old man he would have made. Though in his masterful way, I guess he managed in his youth to embody many of the endearing characteristics of old men. Giant beard, dirty jokes galore, eyes sparkling with mischief, wisdom, and insight, and an honest, what you see is what you get, I'll be damned attitude. His honesty gave those around him permission to be honest too. And in fact, you felt like a fool if you weren't being honest with yourself in the presence of Hicks. Many of us are lucky to know the fondness with which Lucas experienced his friends, family, and acquaintances. He took great joy in his friendships and had humorously astute descriptions depicting the characteristics of people in his life. Often this came in the form of reflecting his view of us in a complimentary way. I think he enjoyed this practice of observation and the exercise of eloquent description, putting order into his world by understanding. Understanding helps us all with acceptance, and acceptance gives us freedom from being hung up on wishing people and the situations in our lives were different, a pitfall that Lucas wasn't impervious to, though managed to avoid better than most. This is the place where friendship buds, and if you look around this room, go ahead, look around, you'll notice that Lucas has a lot of friends. That doesn't mean he didn't complain about the things that troubled and annoyed him. No, in fact, Lucas was a class ranter and raver. I reckon he also took a bit of pride here. With the same eloquence, he could articulate just why a situation or a person was annoying. And in that honesty with himself, he defined his world, both reverent and simultaneously irreverent, in my opinion, in all the right kinds of ways. He had a knack for this, which allowed him to grant deep respect to those around him, and also to be given it from them. He noticed all the beautiful and terrible things that surround us all, attributing to each the appropriate reverence or irreverence, and keeping it all orderly with a heaping dose of his deadly humor. I know he will always be with us in our hearts and minds, reminding us to live well, reject bullshit, live it up, do what we want to do in our lives, and do it wholeheartedly with joy. Pardon my curse, but Lucas wouldn't want a eulogy without profanity. His attitude constantly impressed and inspired us all, and I know that his approach to life will go with me through my life, as I know it will all of us here. He used to say, "What would Jake do?" Or, "What would Jenny do?" I will keep these sturdy emblems of consideration, and I will add to them, "What would Luke do?" Though he carried a heavy burden these many years, not only did he remain buoyant, he downright showed us all how it's done. Not only how to live, but how to go out in style and in grace. It's not as if he ignored the hard times he had to go through. He just chose not to let it be the focus of his living. He was smart that way. His sense of humor was strong and in good order, used as a priceless tool to get us all through the rough times. He doggedly cultivated a life of positivity and joy, even amidst deep fear and uncertainty from his illness. It was rare that I ever felt Lucas place focus on his illness when we were spending time together. He more focused on living his life and pursuing his dreams, and even amidst the mundane of daily life, he was focused on the tasks at hand, not on being sick. He didn't avoid talking about how things were really going, candidly and truthfully, however, but he quickly moved on to having some fun. Lucas knew that if one gets too focused on self-importance, one will experience great suffering. He was a master at maintaining a joyful mind by reframing his situation more positively, experiencing gratitude, and choosing to be kind and generous. And he surrounded himself with others of that ilk. I'm blown away by the community of friends here today. The array of talents and skills, smarts and wit, kind hearts, and hearts blown open in love is truly astounding. We are all so lucky. I think that I've laughed the hardest with Lucas, had the most fun being drunk with Lucas, had the best musical moments with Lucas, and been reminded to do what I want with my life, and that it is a time to be treasured and not squandered. I know I am not alone here. He showed us He showed this to us in the way that he spoke and in the way that he lived. A friend recently sent me a passage from Annie Dillard, and this is the last part of the essay, and it reminded me of Hicks. We can live any way we want. People take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, even of silence by choice. The thing is to stalk your calling in a certain skilled and supple way, to locate the most tender and live spot and plug into that pulse. This is yielding, not fighting. I think it would be well and proper and obedient and pure to grasp your one necessity and not let it go, to dangle from it limp wherever it takes you. And then even death, where you're going no matter how you live, cannot you part. Lucas's birthday was just last week. He would have turned 40. One thing I've heard again and again from folks these past few months in talking about Lucas is how full a life he lived, how he did more in his short time here than many could do in multiple lifetimes. And it's true. He lived large, and he could tell the tales, and he could exaggerate. The man was not afraid to spin a wild yarn. To name just a few of the wonderful and unique things that Lucas could claim in his lifetime, I will do so without exaggeration. He knew all the jokes, all of them, and he would still bust up laughing when you told them to him. He played in the world's first and only Chiquitisha banjo duet. He taught banjo in the Basque Country in Spain. He toured multiple times in multiple bands on multiple instruments. He traveled by hopping freight trains. He was the valedictorian of his high school. Your girlfriend probably had a crush on him. He claimed that he wasn't much of a guitar player, but he still played guitar better than you. He played banjo in a rodeo in Michoacan, Mexico. He was once an amateur bodybuilder. He was a very intuitive caregiver. He had no body odor. That's true. All of it's true. He had the world's heaviest banjo. He had a great memory and could quote dialogue from movies with impressive accuracy. His beard was famous across the country. He liked to claim the title of the best one scapula button accordion player in Western Washington, named Lucas. He created his own style of music on a somewhat obscure style of accordion. And that leads me to speak a bit of Lucas's music and musicianship. As many have witnessed and felt, he was a powerhouse of a musician and a performer. It seemed there was nothing he couldn't play. Banjo, saxophone, accordion, guitar, trumpet, mandolin, bones, spoons, harmonica, ukulele, piano, blah, blah, blah. He was adept at playing and teaching. He was brimming over with talent and had such a knack for showmanship. And he took all that natural ability and desire that he had for playing music, and he tempered it with a solid dedication to learning and to practice. He could and would play for hours and hours. He would practice one section of a line of a tune over and over until he felt that he could acceptably do it. And then he would proceed to the next. His work ethic as a musician was astounding. Just this last year, he started playing mandolin. Within about 6 months, he had a list of over 50 mandolin tunes that he could play, and play well. He loved to share music and learn from others. More than half of that mandolin music was learned by ear, person to person, as he approached different friends to soak up a tune and share some laughs. He would revel in a good session with just the right folks and tunes. He was so encouraging, always with insightful compliments or suggestions. I admired his approach to playing traditional music. He was respectful to the source, And at the same time, he was keenly in tune with the living nature of the music and not afraid of pushing boundaries and bending the rules. In my opinion, he did this all in a very tasteful way. With his own music that he composed and performed, I feel the full range of his personality really shines through. It's at once beautiful, playful, sorrowful, jubilant, irreverent, and holy. And I'll hand it over to Devin.
I'm going to share a little bit about Luke's last days, just to bring you folks there, how that was. On October 3rd, Lucas died following a 14-year ordeal with cancer, 11 surgeries, 9 rounds of chemotherapy, 3 cumulative months of radiation, 1 clinical trial, 1 million doctor visits, hospital beds, the beeping machines, the scans, the tests, appointments, the pills, countless hours of waiting to see what would happen next. Through it all, he still managed to live as full of a life as any of us could hope to. He played at the string band jamboree just days after returning from the hospital after having his shoulder blade removed. He played through the pain, he played through bad news, through sleep deprivation, chemo, and the dread. He played music like his life depended on it. In September, Lucas started what would be his final round of chemotherapy, after an immunotherapy trial didn't have the effect that we had all hoped it would. After a bad reaction to the drugs, the chemo was stopped, and he headed home to recover. The plan was that he'd bounce back, as he had so many times before, and his oncologist would hopefully have something else up his sleeve that could be tried. But as the days wore on, it started to become clear that recovery was not likely. He was bedridden, his vocal cords stopped working, so he communicated through writing, and the side effects of the chemo drugs still afflicted him with intermittent confusion. A contingent of friends and family had gathered at his and Jenny's house, helping to care for him and Jenny and the household and each other, sleeping on couches and floors. On the evening of Wednesday, September 27th, after he had been unconscious most of the previous day or two and his breathing had slowed, the hospice nurse advised us that he was unlikely to survive until morning and that we should say our goodbyes. We took turns entering the room where he lay, with Jenny by his side, and we did our best to say goodbye in whatever way we could. The mood in the house was dark. The call had gone out to folks from out of town, "Come now," and they were turning up through the evening to pay their last respects. When they arrived, they walked into a sad scene. People staring at the ground, holding each other, sniffling and shaking their heads. Around midnight, a certain group of friends from Portland showed up. They may like to take credit for what I'm about to describe, but I have this on good information that it was just a coincidence. Entering the house, they sensed this heaviness and this grief. And by our faces, almost wondered if they were too late. The spirit in the house was dreary. They walked immediately into the music room where Lucas lay with Jenny beside him, both of them eyes closed, unresponsive. Kneeling beside them, they placed their hands on Lucas's arm and told them they were there, hoping that somehow he might be hearing them, even if this was goodbye. Suddenly, Lucas formed the shape of a heart with his hands. He held it up for a moment, then opened his eyes. He held hands with his visitors, looked around, and started to speak in the hoarse whisper that was the best he could do. He hadn't been talking for the past few days. He wanted to sit up and seemed to feel a wave of energy. He started talking a mile a minute, telling us all sorts of things. He said he was dying. We'd never heard him say that before. He said it was all going to be okay. We shouldn't worry. He talked about what a life he'd lived and how happy he was. And my gosh, look at poor Jerry down in accounting. That's Lucas, He said he didn't know how long it would take, but that we would just have to wait. And in the meantime, it was time to party. He said he felt peaceful and happy. And very soon, he was not just communicating, but he was cracking jokes and hanging out and generally just being himself. What were those downers in the living room so upset about? The visitors might have wondered. What they didn't realize was he had been unresponsive for the previous 12 hours or so, and all of us who had mumbled our last goodbyes to him just hours earlier now start peering in the hallway in amazement and see him sitting up with lights on, laughing, scrawling jokes on a pile of papers he was using to communicate. And over the next few hours, we all got a miraculous second chance to go in again and be with him. And it's difficult to overstate the euphoria and sweetness of this period. It was heartbreaking and it was wonderful. He had a whiteboard and he created an acronym code system, his own shorthand for a variety of sayings and inside jokes. And he played a tune on the mandolin, and there's jams going on in the other room, and he would be choreographing them. And at one point, he signaled to me. He wanted something. I was trying to decode his gestures. Did he want a leg massage? Do you want me to adjust your position? And then realized all he wanted was to have his foot lifted up to signal the end of the tune. We stayed up all night long with Lucas and played music till dawn, only stopping when he finally dozed off for a little shut-eye. And everyone bedded down on the couch or the floor or wherever we could sleep. Apparently able to sense the potential for a party, even on the brink of death, Lucas decided he wasn't about to go out with a whimper. They say it's not unusual for the dying to have a sudden, brief rebound before they go. They might come back to life for an hour or so, tell everyone they love them, and share a few precious moments, and then the lights go out. Lucas's rebound lasted for a week. Now that he had drawn so many people to the house by faking his own death, the order came from his room that we should play music and never stop. And play we did into the wee hours of each morning. Lucas would occasionally make a heroic effort and play some banjo or stand up and dance, swaying side to side. He could identify who was playing what instruments in the next room. He was, people were playing musical in-jokes that they shared with Lucas, and he would sense the joke each time. And the full force of the vitality and melancholy and timelessness in all of that music reverberated through the house. Combination Rag, Duck Shoes Rag, Tallapoosa Bound, a January Waltz, and so many other good old tunes from way back that we love so well. During this time and the days following, he was so attentive to each visitor, honoring each person and giving them his full love and attention. A small army of friends was now staying over at or near the house, making big meals together and spending time with Lucas, working through the prodigious mound of pastries that was always on the kitchen table. People were cleaning up the garden, installing bird feeders outside Jenny and Lucas's window, teaching other tunes. Even in the midst of this decline, he was the fastest and funniest person in the room. Even as the rest of us would be turning in for the night, the edict would come from the other room that we should play that tune again, and again, and again. His final days were spent surrounded by the driving energy of the music that he loved, and by many of the friends who loved him. At one point, he reached for a piece of paper, and he wrote in gigantic letters, "So happy." It's hard to imagine a more beautiful death. Nearly a week after he revived, he slipped away peacefully in the afternoon on October 3rd, right at 4:20 p.m. Perhaps his final joke. It was a beautiful day, sunny day, and there was a breeze blowing off the water. The house had been quiet, but with music being played through the day. Jenny had asked that afternoon that some of us sing songs in Lucas's room, and we did, taking turns passing the guitar, quietly singing songs that were some of Luke's favorites, and even some songs that he used to sing as we thumbed through his songbook. This was followed by a rousing music session in the living room. And then, almost unexpectedly, we were all told that he had gone. The house felt quiet and somber again. Everybody seemed to pause, realizing that the sweet time we had been going through had developed a rhythm of its own, and yet could not go on forever. Jenny and Thomas took great care to ready Lucas's body and set the room with flowers and candles. Friends arrived from far and near. Dinner was made, along with a large batch of Lucas Dukers, which, if you don't know, that was Lucas's favorite drink, which was whatever drink he was holding in his hand. Friends took turn, one by one, visiting his room to bid one last farewell. The room was so beautiful, and I couldn't help but think about how perfectly this had all gone, aside from the obvious. That he was home, he was surrounded by his friends, by music, and most of all got to experience incredible joy at the end of his life. His death was as his life was, not focused on pain and the inevitable, but on living those days fully and joyfully. The morning after he died, an entourage of friends accompanied him to the funeral parlor, and the party went on. We kept him company even then. Even Jake, Lucas and Jenny's dog, went along. We played music for him as his body was placed into the crematorium furnace. We played in the parking lot while he was cremated, and then we brought his ashes home. The party continued at the house for some days after, and it continues here, tonight, just as he wanted it to. So as you look around this room and you meet friends over the next day and night, you may realize how many of the people here, some of whom you may count among your closest friends, you've met through or because of Lucas. Lucas was a major instigator in his life, and he keeps that going. Part of the reason he had so many friends was because he created so many friendships. Casey.
As much as he was opposed to the idea of speeches, there was one point he wanted to get across to all of us here. Again and again in his last weeks, he was at pains to communicate how grateful he was to his partner, Jenny, to his friends, to his family, and to the wider community for the incredible support he received throughout his life, his music career and other pursuits, and through his illness. There weren't enough hours in a day and not enough energy left in his body to adequately express gratitude for all the individuals who brought meals or medicine or gave money or sent flowers or kind words. We had a gigantic fundraiser that many of you contributed to. Friends and well-wishers in the Basque Country and Spain organized their own gigantic fundraiser. We started to lose track of all the gigantic fundraisers. Each gesture he received added to this growing burden he felt to acknowledge the consideration being paid to him, to make sure that everyone knew he would never take for granted that he deserved it. So let's settle that debt tonight. If you in any way pitched in spirit or material form, or even just sent some positive vibes in his direction, please know that he deeply appreciated each one of you individually, and had he the chance, would no doubt have returned that kindness and generosity with interest. So many of us did so much through the years for Lucas, and probably all of us wish we could have done more. But a few people deserve special mention here tonight. First, of course, his family. His brothers, John and Van, and their children. His parents, Terry Hicks and Glenna Scott. Family, of course, can transcend the normal transactions of giving and receiving to be the kind of love that just is. To be the fabric out of which you are created. Lucas's love of his family and appreciation of their support and presence throughout his life was evident. Any of us close to Lucas have heard plenty of My Brother John. And My Brother Van's stories. And Glenna is a certified member of the Bellingham family after so many trips here, and her constant presence whenever and wherever she could be there to support and love Lucas and Jenny through the good times and bad. Many of us here tonight slept in hospital chairs, or took time off work to make food, or ran errands, or donated our skills or services to a fundraiser, or drove Lucas to Seattle, or provided a shoulder to cry on, or just stayed in the background when it was time to lay back, or fixed things around the house, or interfaced with the healthcare system, or took Jake on walks, or changed bandages, or played music, or shared laughs. But Thomas Deacon did all of these things, and so many more, without hesitation or reservation, and with creativity and stamina and clarity. He was a model friend whose patience and tenderness and commitment and intuition became an elemental part of Lucas's repeated recoveries through the years. So we'd like to recognize you, Thomas, and say thank you. And now we'd like to honor Lucas's life partner, Jenny Rose Love. I got this. In Jenny, Lucas found love, companionship, support, and constant inspiration. Jenny walks through this world with a calm grace and humility that could be overshadowed by the larger-than-life outward expression of someone like Lucas. But it was her steady support and love that helped and challenged Lucas to be his best. When they first met, Lucas was instantly drawn to Jenny, but she was with her brother Nat, who Lucas thought was her boyfriend. Fortunately, he soon found out she was free, and it was on. To witness their relationship blossom and grow through the years has been a beautiful, inspiring thing. They were there for each other as partners, in the true sense of the word. To offer the whole of yourself to another person, to endure all the agony and the fear, and revel in the love and the hope. They shared nearly everything: travels, laughter, music, Jake the dog, and a home. Jenny also shared in Lucas's trials. Jenny was there in the darkest and hardest times, day in and day out, constantly seeking balance in so many different ways, always setting aside her own needs in the face of the latest urgency. But well beyond loss and sacrifice and loyalty and support, to be a partner through this is, in a very real way, to share it completely. Jenny was all this and more for Lucas, and so, Jenny, we'd like to shine some love on you now and recognize you and say thank you. If you so much as wash a dish at Jenny's house, she will express her eternal gratefulness and ask how she can possibly repay you. It seems safe to say on behalf of everyone here,
we're more than even.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And it seems safe to express on behalf of everyone here the deepest of gratitude to all those who took part in Lucas's care through the hard times. We'd like to invite Lucas's mother, Glenna, to come up and say a few words on behalf of the family.
You shouldn't have clapped first. I'm not the performer. Thank you, Van. He's backing me up in case I can't get through this. Wow. Wow. So many plaid flannel shirts, too. That's why. If you missed it, I'm the lucky woman who got to be Luke's mom. I also have two other wonderful sons, Van and John, as you heard. Most of you knew Lucas when he was an adult or in college. And I have so many stories about him, but I'm going to just share a few of them of when he was younger so you can see how that inspired him to be the person he was. I truly believe that people are born with personalities and strengths, and we're just here to kind of guide them. He was born February 1st, as you heard, 1978, and he was premature. He had Highland membrane disease. Now it's commonly called respiratory distress syndrome, RDS. And it almost always occurs in newborns before 37 weeks gestation. He was in intensive care nursery for 9 days. And I wrote this about him when he was just a few days old in his baby book. I found it after he died. I was looking through his baby book and I found this. Lucas is so strong, which helps all of us see that if he can keep trying and stay so strong, we can keep faith strong too. He is so tolerant and patient with all the procedures, poking and prodding that the nurses have to do to him. He seems to know what's necessary. The nurses comment on how mellow he is and that he is an old soul with wise eyes. Yep. Lucas continued this attitude of acceptance through the challenges of his life and especially through his cancer, helping us all to be stronger. He was wise from the day he was born to the day he moved on to the next world. I wrote this about him when he was 5 years old. Lucas is characterized by his outgoing friendliness. He knows no strangers. Look at all these strangers. We joke that he believes new people have been waiting just to meet him. That was when he was 5. And almost always they are glad to meet him. Color, age, sex, mentality doesn't matter to him. He is interested in people and genuinely likes them. Van and John, is there a Kleenex somewhere? Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you, John. I have such great sons, I have to say. Sitting here. Oh, sorry. Van and John were 8 and 6 when Lucas was born, and they were constantly saying that he was the cutest baby in the world. And you can see by those pictures there, downstairs, they're pretty true. They called him Chubby Cheeks for years. They adored him, laughed at him, made him laugh, and highly influenced his sense of humor and his compassion for others. He always looked up to his brothers in awe. Luke didn't know a stranger, much like Grandpa Scott. He loved Grandpa's jokes and really appreciated Grandma Scott's sly, humorous comments on the side, which I kind of noticed Jenny does that once in a while when he used to tell jokes. But if you listen to her, man, she was funny, but you didn't always hear it. So I talk about his jokes. The first joke he ever told that I remember, he was 4 years old, and it was, "What is invisible and smells like carrots?" Bugs Bunny farts. Yeah. I don't know if he made it up or heard it, but... my friend, who also has 3 sons, about my 3 sons' ages, reminded me just a couple of weeks ago about a time when Lucas was singing or saying the chorus of a song when he was a little kid. I don't know how old he was, 6 or 7. You know, "Stop in the Name of Love." But he changed it for some reason to "Stop in the Name of Fred." And to this day, her sons still use that phrase as an inside family joke. And they can't really explain where they got it because it'd take too long. As a child, Lucas didn't like sleeping alone in a room, so he shared bedrooms alternately with Van and John from the time he was a baby. He and his brothers had so much fun together with antics and shenanigans. They always had me laughing and continue to. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard as when I'm with my 3 sons, maybe with my sisters, but they're hilarious. So, you know, Luke loved being around people, and they loved being around him. And when he moved to Bellingham and went to WWU, 5 of his friends moved with him. That's just how it was. In his childhood, he survived step families, being a chubby kid, his dad and brothers moving to Washington for a while, and other normal childhood challenges. But he thrived and made friends and started playing the trombone, and then the saxophone, followed by a multitude of instruments. He was never one to fear speaking in public and felt comfortable being center stage. Luke's natural comfort and desire to be center stage was balanced with his patient teaching others and encouraging them to learn and have fun. I believe if he hadn't been diagnosed with cancer, he would not have followed his passion. But because at 25, he found that his finish line was elusive, he lived with determination and courage. When he first told me about his diagnosis 14 years ago, I told him, like a mom would, I wish so much I could take this on. I want to take this for you. And he said, no, Mom, I'm supposed to have this. There's something I'm supposed to learn. Through the constant background of pain, surgeries, treatments, and withdrawal from opioids, he could be grumpy, but rarely, which amazed many people. He did not want to be known as a guy with cancer, so he continued to live the life he was given to the fullest. I've thought about the real possibility that years from now, a young person who is passionate about music will tell someone that they were encouraged by stories told to them by a parent or grandparent or friend or neighbor about when that person was younger, they were inspired by the legacy of a young man named Lucas Hicks. I believe Lucas continues to be part of our lives in whatever way he can. And, he's still joking around somewhere. I found this is a book that my daughter-in-law and son gave me. It's called The Grief Recovery Handbook. You can see what color it is, what shape it is. I ordered one for a friend, and this is what came in the mail. And this chocolate. And so, so I looked at my order and I was like, wait, oh no, I didn't order that. I ordered this. And first I was like, what? And then I was like, what? And I opened it up and it's like the first recipe is a chocolate heaven and heavenly delights. And I'm like, Lucas, okay. Yeah. And then when I contacted them, they said, oh, keep it, it's free. We'll order you one of these. Don't worry about it. It has 100 temptingly tasting dishes. So thank you, Lucas, for this gift. I'm definitely going to incorporate chocolate with my grief recovery. And I just want to say thank you all for loving my son. It really made his life wonderful. Okay, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi. This is the Lucas Hicks's brother's uniform. He gave me these some time ago. Gave me this hat, Joe Brazil shirt. We're lucky enough to be genetically related to Lucas Hicks. We loved him from day one. This might be hard to get through, but I swear it's going to be funny. So I wanted to talk about how Luke, it's always fun to be around him, and how they've already mentioned how you can feel open to be yourself, your open, real, playful self and creative self. And that was always wonderful. And it was often crazy and interesting and the funniest thing we've ever done. And it happened all the time. We would go back to Grand Junction. I was living elsewhere and Luke was living up here, and we'd go to Grand Junction for Christmas and always look forward to going to like this educational toy store and buying each other
toys for the stockings, for, Christmas stockings, so that we could play with them. We would buy stuff and think, oh, I wonder what we're going to come up with there. So we would buy stuff and come up with games, creative games to do with this stuff. And man, when at first I wanted to say thank you for everyone who planned all this. I've been privy just to the Google group to see all the emails and the planning and the work, and it's shocking. And I want to say thank you. Once we bought, you know what a Chinese yo-yo is? It's like a stick with the paper around it and it kind of zooms out like that. Well, that was one Christmas and we thought, what are we going to do with it? So of course we started hitting each other with it. And that's not quite creative enough. So eventually we got to trying to we put toothpicks in Luke's beard and I would try to knock him out, like, whoa, whoa. And because it's paper, if I accidentally hit him in the head, it would like whack, and it's a really loud whack, and it was, oh God, we die laughing. But that was not enough. So we thought, okay, let's put more in the beard, and Luke will start juggling, and I will try to hit it out of the beard without him stopping juggling, right? So he's juggling, and I'll whack, 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 and try to hit it out of there. And then eventually we got, of course, to the flaming match in his mouth or in his beard, and then trying to knock it out before it, burns his beard down and so on. This is a normal Christmas at my mom's house. So many things like that I can remember just from the younger days. And Van and I and Luke getting together, it's just like, what is going to happen? And it was some of the happiest times of my life, Once we got together for Thanksgiving and we were at an uncle's house and his chain link fence happened to be a little low, and we thought how funny it'd be to run at the fence, fall over it, and see who could hit the most points for how you fell over this fence. We were in our 20s then. And the one other thing is, you ever heard of Calvin Ball? This is Calvin and Hobbes, We'd always joke about that Calvin and Hobbes always make up a game and just keep, making the rules up and changing it and so on. And we actually made up a game of Calvin Ball the morning I was getting married. It was at a conference retreat center in Santa Cruz, California, and we were staying in this barn, and we thought, oh, let's play this game. So I was nearly late because I was dying laughing. And it was some sort of game where I had bought like a Nerf, what was that thing called? What's that? It's like a dart gun, right? A Nerf dart gun. It's like, okay, how are we going to use this? And here's a beach ball, and oh, we have a bat. Great, what are we going to do? So it was kind of like baseball, right? Luke will throw the ball, and I'll try to hit it, and Van will get their Nerf dart gun and try to hit me before I run around the barn or whatever it was. And so it's like, oh, let's start playing. Okay, we hadn't even started playing, and then we start playing, and it's like, okay, Van's standing over in the corner, and he's ready, and Luke's throwing the ball, and I'm like, I'm ready, and I hit it, and the moment the bat hits the ball, I get hit in the face with a dart. I don't think I stopped laughing for 20 minutes, and we're crying, and it's like, oh, what time is it? I gotta get married, and oh my God. So that was like one version of our Calvin Ball. There's so many more of those, and we won't have those times anymore, just the three of us. But when we think about Luke and the way he made people feel comfortable, be creative, and have fun, I want to keep that going. We want to keep that going, When you see qualities in people, and Luke had a lot of great qualities, I'm trying my best to keep those in my heart and the way I am too, because I admired him, as I'm sure you all did too. So anyway, that was my story of Calvin Ball. Thank you very much.
Good one, John. Hi, everybody. I'm Van, and I feel like the luckiest man in the world when I say that I'm Lucas's older brother. And I know that he felt like the luckiest man in the world to be part of this community, and somehow I think luck is just a small part of it, because he emitted this attraction, and he had this uncanny ability to attract all sorts of characters. And it worked both ways. because he was attractive to all sorts of characters. And I think this room represents a fruit of his labor. And it's so sweet to see you all here in one place and to be part of this one-of-a-kind thing in time and space. And I was thinking if we could just take a moment and silently look around and just kind of pause and absorb that fact. Oh my God, hey everybody, it's Lucas! The speakerphone. Hey Lucas! What, it's sweet there? The banjos never go out of tune? And they're made of gold? Oh my. Hey, you wouldn't believe it, but I'm standing in the room with all your best friends, and we're having a huge party like hell party, like you asked. You should come join us. What? You're already here? Oh, and you sent us a box for Calvin Ball. Oh, okay, let's party. Okay, bye, bro. Oh, look at this. It says it's from Lucas Hicks, P.O. Box 1, the other side. And there's a really weird zip code here. It's 420-666-6969. Which, I don't know if you know this, but you know at Fred Meyer where you punch in your numbers, like your phone number, that was his number, along with a lot of us, and I think he got a lot of free gas through that guy. And then, so it's addressed to everybody on this side. So that's, should we open it? You might want to hide your children's eyes. What is it? That's a good question. Oh, it looks like some indoor snowballs. That's not a snowball. Here, you guys, throw some snowballs, will you? So I hope we can all come up with some creative ways to use these things. There's a bunch of other stuff in here. Feel free to go nuts and let's play Calvin Ball for the next 2 days. I just wanted to say thank you to Lucas for being unstoppable. And for being here with us in spirit. Thank you.
It's just what this eulogy needed. Thanks, guys. We've rented this room and many of the rooms in the building, including the downstairs, this main floor, and the upstairs, throughout the evening tonight. And our hope is that you will stay and play music and remember Lucas and partake of the food and drink and fellowship. We have 100 of our own tempting and tasty pie treats in the form of pies downstairs. I'm sure you already saw that. There will be a band with room to dance downstairs, and there are many little side rooms where you can play music or do your own thing. You can take in a slideshow or peruse many actual real-life photographs. Tomorrow evening, the party continues in downtown Bellingham on and around Bay Street. Starting at 7 p.m., several venues have opened their doors to us. We're going to have a parade, folks. Let's get crazy. The Wild Buffalo will be hosting an evening of music by bandmates and friends of Lucas. There you can hear the Happy Valley Sluggers, Caleb Clowder and Reeb Wilms, the Sons of Rainier, featuring Bellingham's own Devin Champlin, Deacon Nillis, that's Thomas Deacon and Stephanie Nillis, the Crowquill Night Owls, and more. The Old Town Cafe will be an unamplified place for all ages to relax and play music. You can discover the secrets of the drink known as the Lucre Duker at the Temple Bar, or the Cabin Tavern, Bayou on Bay, or the Honeymoon. Those places will also be playing music from as many recordings. The radio station KMRE 102.3 FM will also be playing his music throughout tomorrow evening. A heartfelt thanks go out to all the businesses that contributed so generously to these festivities. Now, I want to ask you to all join together in an exercise. I'm going to describe a Lucas-related category and ask you to stand. If you are in that category, please stand up briefly, and once everyone in that category has stood, sit down again. This goes for the folks downstairs as well. Of course, if you can't stand or don't wish to stand, feel free to pass, or maybe just raise your hand or whatever feels right. Let's try one just to get the idea here. If you ever had a drink with Lucas Hicks, please stand. Okay, well done. Go ahead and sit down. Go ahead and sit down on your own as soon as it's obvious that everyone is going to stand. Everyone that is going to stand has. If you've ever danced at a square dance called by Lucas, please stand. Yeah. Okay. If you have ever hugged or been hugged by Lucas, please stand. If you lived with or rented a room from Lucas, please stand. Yeah. If you ever had Lucas do something considerate or generous for you, please stand. Wow. Lucas had a small face tattooed onto his thumb, who went by the name of Ike. If you have ever thumb wrestled with Ike, please stand. Yeah. If you ever played in a band with Lucas, please stand. If you ever waited patiently as Lucas counted up the band money and obsessively faced all the bills in the proper order, please stand. That's about 100% crossover there, yeah. If you ever played mucus, whoa. If you ever played, I did that when I was practicing this, I did that. If you ever played music with Lucas in any context, please stand. If you ever listened to Lucas play music, live or recorded, please stand. If you've ever taken a music lesson from Lucas, please stand. If you were at Lucas and Jenny's house at any point in the last couple of weeks before he died, please stand. If you were ever out partied by Lucas, please stand. If Lucas ever that's what she saided anything you said, please stand. Yep. That adds up. Yeah, stay with me. We got a few more. If you ever laughed at something Lucas said or did, please stand. Sorry, you'll have to stand. Yep. If you ever long-armed or herked something for Lucas, please stand. If you ever grew up with Lucas or knew him as a child or adolescent, please stand. If you were Lucas's partner, Jenny Rose. If you knew Lucas Hicks at all, or listened to his music, or appreciated him, or loved him, please stand up and remain standing, and feel free to sit if you need to. Let's now have 2 minutes of silence, where we as a community remember and honor our friend, life partner, son, brother, and teacher, Lucas Aaron Hicks.
What do I do with this heart that's overflowing? Where do I put this love that I can't hold in? I can't keep back this feeling that's ever growing. I'm spilling over with love for my family and my friends. I'm spilling over with love for my family and my friends. I'm thinking of my family who raised me through the early days, and I know that I can't repay the things they've done for me. I know that they know I love them, and I'm always thinking of them. And when I am without them, I can feel their love within. What What do I do with this heart that's overflowing? Where do I put this love that I can't hold in? I can't keep back this feeling ever growing. I'm spilling over with love for my family and my friends. I'm spilling over with love for my family and my friends. I know we've all met good friends. I know that I've got the best friends. And when I am among them, I'm the luckiest man alive. And I'd do anything for them, and I know that they'd do the same for me. Sometimes all the joy and laughter makes me burst and cry. What do I do with this heart that's overflowing? Where do I put this love that I can't hold in? I can't keep back this feeling that's ever growing. I'm spilling over with love for my family and my friends. I'm spilling over with love for my family and my friends.
Thank you, everyone, so much for coming tonight. Please stay and enjoy yourselves, and thanks for your presence here.